Welcome back, everyone, to Jocks of All Trades podcast. This is our episode Sideline GMs. This is our last mock draft before the NFL draft. That's starting Thursday night at 8 o'clock. We're very excited. Today, I have Howie Roseman Jr. and Travis Roseman, a.k.a. my dad and my brother. Thank you guys for being on. So how this is going to work is we're going to go one by one. Brian is up first with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it'll be Travis and then me, and we'll go on like that. So the Jaguars are on the clock. What are they going to do with the first pick?
Well, we're on the phone lines right now trying to wheel trade because we kind of want to get out of the first. But since there are no trades in this mock draft, and since Doug Peterson is an offensive guru, all the talk has been about taking Thibodeau or taking Hutchinson, but Howie has nothing to do with this anymore. But Doug is going to pick up that philosophy from Philadelphia, and we're gonna go ahead and take Ikem Ikwanu, I think, just because they invested so much in Trevor Lawrence last year. Got to keep the guy healthy. He's the best tackle in this draft, and he's a keeper. He could be there for 12, 13 years for them. So Ikem Ikwanu for the Jaguars.
Yeah, and I kind of see a lot of Jason Peters in his game, and Doug's very familiar with that kind of player. I feel like they're going to do something, probably not what we expect, because that's kind of what the Jaguars do. And then, i.e. Urban Meyer, and then getting Travis Etienne and moving him to receiver. So, stupid things that they do. But I don't think this is a stupid thing. I think you need a franchise left tackle for your franchise quarterback. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think they do have some decent pass rushers there already. But the Lions probably like that pick. So, Travis, you are up with the Detroit Lions.
Okay. Well, this makes this decision a lot easier then. So I'm going to, as a Lions, I'm going to take Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. I think he's probably the safest pick in the draft. And a lot of people think he's already reached his potential, but I think he can still get better from what he was at Michigan. Plus, that's a guy I think that the Lions can build their defense around long term. A guy that'll be there for a number of years. So I think this is a no-brainer. Can't mess it up. If he's available, I think that's who they'll take.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Probably kind of like a Bosa. Them coming out of Ohio State were pretty much ready to go and performed right away. So definitely not like a sexy pick, I would say, but probably be like a Pro Bowler every year. I don't think that's something people will shy away from. Definitely a good pick like that. The Texans are now on the clock at number 3, and that is me. So Hutchinson is gone. Ikem Ikwanu is gone. Oh, this is tough. I think this would be a good trade down spot as well. But I think they're going to go for Trayvon Walker, defensive end out of Georgia. He's been rising up draft boards quite a bit lately. And kind of due to the fact his combine was just so immaculate, his testing numbers, his height, weight, speed, all that jazz. And then you get to the point where at Georgia he played multiple positions, but he never really played true pass rusher. It kind of speaks to the fact that he could do multiple things, but he could be even better at defensive end. If you look at his spider chart, I don't know if you guys ever seen that, but what they are compared to other players of their position, like their percentile. Like he's like 99 percentile in everything, but his spider chart would be good enough for like a corner. And that's pretty crazy for like a 275 kind of guy. So we kind of saw this with I would say Mekhi Becton last year. I mean, he really rose up late in the draft, and picked very early. So will it turn out well? I don't know. I feel like a lot of these players that kind of go near the end of the draft cycle and rise up to the top, doesn't always bode well because they're relying more on their combine rather than their tape. But athleticism alone, I think it's worthy enough for the 3rd overall pick for the Texans, and it gets them a very athletic player on their defense, which they need. I don't think their offense is ready to go, like in terms of if they would get a receiver here or a tackle. Like, I don't know if that really does anything for them right away because their offense is horrible. It's not going to get really much better with David Mills in his 2nd year, I don't think. So I think going defense first would be the smart move. The New York Jets are now on the clock.
Yeah, well, I think the Jets are going to go ahead and get themselves a playmaker. And, those few years back there when Rex was there and around that time when they had Revis, basically nobody threw to his side of the field. And so I think the Jets kind of want to try to maybe get that back again. And I think Ahmad Gardner, cornerback from Cincinnati, will be the best choice for them here because he's an automatic shutdown corner. He's also a playmaker as well, and he upgrades their secondary tremendously. They could use offensive help, like poor Zach Wilson could use a receiver or maybe even a little more line help. I mean, they do have Mekhi Becton, as you talked about. He was injured last year, so he'll come back. So I don't think that's a big pressing need. But I think the cornerback, a guy who's like a generational player, I don't know. I'm not sure if Ahmad Gardner is that type of player, but he's pretty close. So the Jets are going with Ahmad Gardner.
Nice. Yeah, he's been rising up quite a bit recently too. I think he didn't even allow a touchdown, I believe, in his career, which is crazy. He reminds me a lot of a Jalen Ramsey type. Now, the Jets secondary, I would say, is pretty much in shambles, so that kind of shores up one half of the field for them. But they also need linebacker help and I would say pass rush help. They're one of those teams that could use pretty much everything besides quarterback. But yeah, I think they'd be very, very happy with Ahmad Gardner here at 4. The Giants are now on the clock at number 5.
All right. Let's see here. Who do we have? Well, I think if I was the Giants at this point, I wouldn't try to be cute, and I would just take the best player available, which I think at this point is Evan Neal from Alabama. There's a lot of people that think he might be not only the best tackle in the draft, but might be the best player, given what he's done at Alabama and the multiple positions that he's played. So I think that Giants have a huge need at offensive line, and I think with him on one side and Andrew Thomas on the other side, start to be able to protect Daniel Jones or whoever the quarterback is a little bit better.
Hopefully not Daniel Jones.
And maybe open up some running lanes for Saquon.
Well, yeah, I think that's the hope, isn't it? Spend all that capital on Daniel Jones, Saquon, Kadarius Toney, and still their offense is can't do anything. Partly due to the offensive line, and partly due just because they can't draft well on offense. It seems like. But if he's the best player in this draft, why do you think? Because it seems like he probably will fall in reality as well. Why do you think he's going to fall a little bit?
I think it's similar to Hutchinson, where I think a lot of people feel like since he's played his best football already at Alabama, and there's not really the potential for him to get better, which, I mean, these guys are only in their 20s, so I think there's still lots of opportunity for them to grow. But, he might not have the upside of Ekwonu or some of the other guys there, but he's been solid ever since he got stepped on to Alabama's campus and has played multiple positions. So against, you could argue the best competition in the country. So
Yeah.
and held up.
That means the Giants are on the clock. Sorry, the Panthers are on the clock at 6. I think in real life, the Panthers would probably trade down at this spot, I think. I don't know if there's a quarterback worthy at picking at number 6. So I'm picking for them. So I'm not picking a quarterback because I don't think it's worth it. So I'm going to go Charles Cross out of Mississippi State for the Panthers. They need offensive line help desperately. It's not a good group up front. You could argue quarterback here, but I don't believe there's a quarterback worth taking at number 6. I think you can find similar talent in the second round, or just stink and then get one of the two next year. Because even if they get a quarterback this year, I don't think they're going to be very good. I don't think they're ready to compete at all. But Charles Cross kind of offers that stable left tackle. Performed very well in the SEC for Mississippi State. He's not the most freaky athletic as maybe an Ikwanu or Evan Neal, but I think we know what he is. I think he's going to be solid for many, many years. He might never be the all-pro type of tackle, but I think he's going to lock down the left side for their offensive line for years to come. I think he's ready to go right now. So I think it's a good pick for them. Like I said, quarterback just not, in my opinion, not worth taking at number 6. Probably a guy the Giants would like, honestly. If they didn't take Evan Neal, I think they'd be happy with him too. So that brings up the Giants at number 7.
So I think at number 7, Giants will go with a playmaker in the secondary and take Kyle Hamilton.
Oh.
And I think that he will be a guy that, again, another guy I think they can build their defense and culture around moving forward. And I think he's a safety that can play multiple different spots on the field too. So, I mean, when you look at – I was thinking the other day, when you look at what the Bills had at safety, they had 2 guys that were interchangeable, could come down the box, play over top, and I think Kyle Hamilton fits that as well. And I don't think I don't think teams will be worried about his combine or his pro day times.
Yeah.
I think he clearly plays faster than that when you watch the tape. So
yeah, it's more in his head rather than his feet, which I think honestly, it translates to the NFL. I mean, the better you are at reading defenses and reading their keys and knowing the game, I mean, the faster you can get to that spot on the field rather than reacting late and your body not being able to get to that spot on the field, and then you're screwed. So I think he is Harrison Smith-esque in a way, but I also think he can be better than Harrison Smith. But we'll see. Like that pick for them. As an Eagles fan, I would not be happy with their draft so far because I think that makes their team a lot better. So I think in reality they probably won't have this good of a draft because it's the Giants. But
but they're changing.
Yeah, they got that Bills coach now. So there's that different mentality there.
There's a little bit of brain power in that room that wasn't there before.
I think so.
So that means the Falcons are on the clock at number 8.
Well, remind me now, their offseason was kind of strange, right? Matt Ryan's gone. And
they got Mariota.
Brought in Marcus Mariota. He's still, he's kind of an unknown quantity for them. He's serviceable. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but I don't think there's anybody in the draft that is automatically better than Marcus Mariota right now. So they'd be foolish to go quarterback with this pick. Kayvon Thibodeau could be one of those kind of guys, kind of like to their defense, what Kyle Pitts was to their offense last year. And you know, how many mock drafts had Kayvon Thibodeau going number 1 or 2 overall? And here he is with the Falcons at 8, still available. Knowing again that wide receiver is also a big need for them. Ridley is gone for gambling, and there's no Julio there any longer. But I don't really feel like they're all that concerned with giving Mariota a lot of quality targets. So again, build the team smart. Take Kayvon Thibodeau. At least what he'll do is he'll excite and energize your fan base, if nothing else. So let's go with Kayvon Thibodeau for the Falcons.
For sure. I mean, that's a pretty good value pick. A lot of people are saying he doesn't have it, or he's lazy, or things like that. But at every turn when they ask him, he's like, I don't even know where that's coming from. I think probably scouts and then media kind of put these players into boxes. If they do one thing or make, one play, they need to find some kind of flaw in their game. So they just kind of say, this is what's wrong with him. This is why he could fall. And I think in reality, he's probably one of the best players in this draft. It's just media kind of got a handle of him, and he's, in our eyes, he's going to fall down. So will he on draft day? I don't know. But it's a really good value pick for the Seahawks there at number 8.
Yeah, and if you listen to his interviews, when he is interviewed, he is an incredibly intelligent, articulate individual. In his interviews, he won't discuss too much in the way of technique, because he says, this is a competition, but he definitely has. It's not all strength and speed with him. There's technique involved with it as well, and I think if he goes this late, to the Falcons, I think there's a guy who'll be playing with a chip on his shoulder for a while. So I think they'll really. If it's not the Falcons, it would definitely be the Seahawks next. Someone's going to benefit from this guy.
Yeah, I don't think he gets past Seattle if he gets there. I think he kind of reminds me of a Seattle Seahawk for some reason. But you're right. A lot of guys, from what we've heard, Trayvon Walker, even Jermaine Johnson apparently has been getting hype in the top 5, which is crazy to me. It's just this is what happens late in the draft, is based on someone's combine, or someone just gets a hold of their one game of tape and finds this really good play, and then it's he could go top 10, top 5. I don't know. In my eyes, Kayvon Thibodeau should always be top 5. I don't really know why he's falling, but I think you're right. I think he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder wherever he goes if he keeps falling. That's a good pick. So Seahawks are up at 9. That is me. Oh boy, this is hard. Seattle needs pretty much everything. They are a dumpster fire. I don't know why Pete Carroll's still there. Oh boy, that's tough. Okay. I think I'm going to go Jermaine Johnson at number 9, just because of the hype that he's getting recently. He was a Georgia Bulldog at one point, but obviously he couldn't see the field with the plethora of players they had. So he transferred to Florida State and played pretty darn well for them. I believe he had 12 sacks, was a killer in the Senior Bowl. His athletic profile's pretty great as well. Very quick. He's got length, power, speed, all the things that you want. It's just, is he as freaky athletic as a Trayvon Walker? No. Is he as good as a pass rusher as Thibodeau? Probably not. But he is pretty good in the run game as well. And I think the Seahawks need a stalwart at defensive end. They haven't had one in quite some time. I honestly can't remember the last good defensive end they've had. What is it, Daryl Tapp maybe? I don't know. Who's that?
Michael Bennett.
Yeah.
Might have been yeah, I mean, it's still been a while. And they've tried at defensive end and D tackle recently. I mean, they got Jaron Reed. He's already gone, I believe. Rasheem Green, guys like that. LJ Collier from TCU. Like these guys that I don't think really have panned out that much. And in my eyes, they need a defensive end that's going to be there every down. I think Jermaine Johnson can definitely be that guy. I think he needs to improve on his pass rush ability, but from the run game perspective, I think he can easily play all three downs and be that for them. They need help on defense pretty much at every level now that Bobby Wagner's gone. Jamal Adams, who I call Blitz Boy, I think he sucks. I never really liked him. I don't think he does anything for that defense besides, an extra linebacker maybe. But their pass rush is pretty bad. So I think Jermaine Johnson would be a solid pick. I think if Thibodeau was there, they'd definitely take him. But Falcons got on that. So at 10, we have the Jets. Again.
So the big talk right now, obviously, is with Debo being dissatisfied with San Francisco. All New York media is trying to get this big trade to bring Debo Samuel to the Jets because they feel like, you get Debo, who's like your Swiss Army knife wide receiver. You got Elijah Moore, who's a really good wide receiver. So they're not going to get this trade. I just don't see Lynch trading Debo for this. So what they'll do is they'll go with the closest facsimile of Debo in the draft. And they're going to go with Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State because it'll be a Wilson to Wilson connection, and that'll be all over the New York papers. They'll have fun with that. Plus, I mean, let's face it, like the Jets don't have a whole lot. They could. Stingley would be a great choice here too. They could get the two top cornerbacks and automatically have this great defensive backfield. But I think they're going to go ahead and go to the other side of the ball, and we're going to go with Garrett Wilson here, I think.
Travis, what do you think of Garrett Wilson in terms of like the best receiver in this draft? Think it's him? Do you think it's Olave, Drake London, Jameson Williams?
I think if Jameson Williams was healthy, he might be the best receiver in this draft, but obviously you don't know what's going to happen there with that injury. I mean, I think he was trending to be the best receiver in the draft until he got hurt, but I think Garrett Wilson is really good. Obviously, getting to watch Penn State play Ohio State every year, I saw him destroy our defense year after year, and it doesn't matter where he catches the ball. I mean, he can catch it on a quick screen, and he's dynamic with the ball in his hands, or he can run past you and beat you over top. So I think he's just a guy that gets open, which is what the Jets need. I don't think they should be worried about how his physical traits are, because I think that's overrated. The guy can get open.
He can catch the ball.
And you can give it, and just like Elijah Moore, you can give it to him in different situations. You can get screen pass or handoff, and he's good with the ball in his hands. So another playmaker.
Yeah, it seems pretty much inevitable at this point with these Ohio State receivers. Like, we talked about it when they are probably, freshmen or, what I mean? Like, oh, this guy's going to be a first-round pick, and then he is. You just kind of see it from some of these guys. So why all of a sudden be like, I don't know if he's that. You can kind of tell from some of these guys. That's why I kind of trust it more with guys like him, players from these schools that produce receivers. You just kind of – maybe it's wrong to trust that they're going to automatically work out. It's just for me when I see players from – receivers from like Ohio State or Alabama or LSU, I'm just like, let's give them a shot because I think they're probably going to turn out to be half decent at least. So,
and they're pro ready.
If you look at Ohio State, I mean, look at their bowl game. They didn't even have Olave or Wilson in that bowl game, and their receivers tore it up.
Yeah.
Their backup receivers tore it up. So these guys, Wilson and Olave were their best receivers all year long. So if those other guys who tore it up in the bowl game, except for the one. What was the one guy's name? Oh, I can't
Fleming.
remember. What's that?
Fleming.
No, not Fleming. The other one, the third Ohio State receiver who's still there with them.
Smith and Jigba.
Smith, yeah.
Oh, man, he's
I
good.
mean, like those guys, their production was suppressed by Wilson and Olave. So that tells you how good Wilson and Olave are. And you don't have to teach these guys how to run patterns. They know that already.
That's true.
And you don't have to teach them how to concentrate and catch a ball. And you don't have to keep on stroking their egos or trying to pump up their confidence.
Joe Rigger.
Yeah, because they're already there. So I think it's a good pick for the Jets.
That means the Commanders are up. That's funny. Travis, I gave you the Commanders, and that's Carson Wentz's team. Crazy.
Oh. And they'll probably screw it up for him even more.
I'm sure.
But just looking at what they need, and honestly, I mean, I feel like they could use help pretty much anywhere, except defensive line. I think they probably have invested a lot there already. But secondary-wise, they could use help. But I think what they probably will do, because they're the Commanders and they just got a new shiny toy in Carson Wentz, or what they think is a new shiny toy in Carson Wentz, is I think they'll probably go receiver and take Drake London with that pick.
I would laugh so hard if that happened. And if the Eagles
I just feel like that has a Washington vibe.
It does for sure.
Oh, the colors are similar, right? He won't have to change his colors very much from SC to the Commanders.
Yeah, he's one of those players that, like, if an opposing team drafts them, I'll laugh, and if we draft them, then I will cry. I just don't want anything to do with him. As an Eagles fan, like, we all know about these receivers, these Pac-12 guys who have a hard time, like, dominating Pac-12 corners and then get into the NFL and play actual corners and then can't do anything. So, but yeah, for the football team, Commanders, I still don't know their name. I mess it up all the time. Yeah, this seems like a pick for them. They have Scary Terry there, but listen, I think he wants a lot of money, and I don't know if they're going to shell out that money for him. I mean, poor guy's played with a bunch of really crap quarterbacks. I think he could be like a 1,300 kind of yard receiver every year if he played with an actual good one. And spoiler alert, Wentz isn't that either. So I think he's probably going to be out of there soon. Curtis Samuel could not stay on the field, so I believe they have someone else, don't they?
Johnny Brown.
That's right. They got Brown. I think let's see. No, TCU is in the Big 12, right? I remember when they got Josh Doxson. That didn't work out for them at all. So I don't know how Drake London's going to do, but it does seem kind of like a Commanders kind of pick. They need a receiver on the outside if those guys are going to be gone. So again, I would laugh, but it is a Commanders thing to do. I don't think even though there are better players right now, I believe, on the board, like a Jordan Davis type. They don't really need Jordan Davis. Derek Stingley, I think, would be a good pick for them, but I just don't see them going that route. I think they're going to be stupid. So I agree with that pick. Carson Wentz, well done. Let's see who's next. We have the Vikings at number 12.
And right now they are like jumping up and down in their war room after the Commanders picked Drake London because Derek Stingley Jr. is available, and they have Patrick Peterson there. And so they're going to have like an all LSU. I mean, basically this is the perfect place for Derek Stingley Jr. to land as well, because they'll have a natural mentor there. And I think they even have someone on their coaching staff who may have been a defensive backs coach at LSU. I think. I'm not sure. There's some other LSU connection in there, but I'm not quite sure what it is. At least I heard that. But, yeah, definitely, again, he's one of those talented cornerbacks that, can make a big difference. So they'll go Derek Stingley Jr.
Yeah, it's a good pick to get molded by Patrick Peterson. Stingley freshman year was pretty unstoppable. He had 6 interceptions in his freshman year. Why do you think? Why do you think he fell a little bit from his freshman year to where he is now?
Well, injuries, and then did he sit out the COVID year? Did he sit out the COVID year? You'd have to go back and look. And then I think he was somewhat injured. But consider the receivers that he had to go up against in practice.
True. Yeah.
I mean, he's Justin Jefferson, right? Jamar Chase. These guys are like tearing it up in the league, right? So every day he practices against the very best. Making the transition to the NFL, he's already practiced against the very best. So
yeah,
I think he's ready to go from day one for them.
For sure. And they have a bad track record of picking corners. I think they took Jeff Gladney, who's already on a different team. That did not work out well for them. So they need to get it right. Their defense at one point, during that championship run, was the strength of their team. That was a really good defense, but they haven't had a good defense in a while. Anthony Barr, I don't think, is on their team anymore. Eric Kendricks is getting up there in age. Harrison Smith's ancient as well. So they really could use, and they have Patrick Peterson, who's also a grandfather at this point. So they need some young talent on the defense for sure. That's a good pick for them. So Derek Stingley to the Vikings. That's nice. And then we have the Houston Texans up at 13. And that is me. Oh, boy. Well, with their first pick, they got Trayvon Walker. And they're very excited about that. So what they're going to do now is they're going to stick someone right beside him, and they're going to go his teammate from Georgia. They're going to go Jordan Davis. They got Jordan Davis and Trayvon Walker. I think he's the best player on the board at this point. He is kind of, I would say, a unicorn, kind of an enigma. They don't really know. He has all the athletic talent in the world, from his combine to his measurables, whatever, but he didn't really play that much per down, I would say. He played maybe first, second down, got off the field on third down, played 40% of snaps. I don't know, something like that. So it's kind of hard to imagine where he'll wind up and if he'll be an every down player. But he has all the tools that you want, I think, all the athletic ability in the world. So if they can pair up two freaks, probably the two freakiest freaks in this draft together right next to each other, I think they'd be really happy about that. So Texans are going to go Jordan Davis with their second first-round selection, and that would bring up the Ravens at 14. Yeah, no, I probably stole Jordan Davis from you.
You did. But I think the Ravens at this point, since Jordan Davis is off the board, will look to the secondary, which I think they need some help in. And I have them taking Trent McDuffie from Washington.
Trent McDuffie. Now, do you think he could play rumors are he might be able to play safety as well. Is that something that you'd think he would do for the Ravens? They are pretty desperate at safety as well.
Well, I think he's played inside at Washington. He's played outside. And I feel like the Ravens, of all teams, probably appreciate that versatility on defense.
For sure.
Given the help they need in the secondary, a guy that can play a bunch of different positions back there. I think they probably would have wanted to go defensive line, either Jordan Davis or if one of the edge rushers was there to pair up with OA, that's probably what they would want to do. But given the fact that those guys are gone, I think that makes probably the most sense for them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know with Marcus Peters. I believe he had a pretty significant injury last year. Who knows if he'll be back up to speed. Humphrey got hurt as well. We know what he can do, but and their safeties are, I would say, underwhelming right now.
Mm-hmm.
We know they value pass rushers, and they have quite a bit of them. They have a number of defensive linemen. But, yeah, if they could shore up their secondary for sure, get faster back there, I think that really improves their entire defense. Now, for the next pick, we have the Philadelphia Eagles.
And so I'm picking for my father, since my name is Howie Roseman Jr.
Oh,
If I was picking for my father, I know for sure he would probably waste this pick on Malik Willis because, we're a quarterback factory and we could use another one. But a lot of reports have, and it's a good pick. I don't know that he'll see the field right away, but the Eagles take chances on injured players. I mean, Landon Dickerson last year, he's an injured player. He's going to be an all-pro for them. He's just his mentality is right. Like, and as an Eagles fan as well, I would love for them to pick Jameson Williams right here. And even if he doesn't play the first 3 or 4 games, and you have to go with Zach Pascal as your leading, other than Smith. Just think about the future, what that could be. And you give Jalen Hurts another weapon like that. Now you got 2 bona fide wideouts, good wideouts that came from good schools. You got a really good tight end. Your running backs are decent. If he doesn't pan out, I mean, this is the year to find out if Hurts is your guy going into what they did for next year anyway. So give him the best opportunity to shine, and then you will know for sure if he's going to be your guy going forward. I think it's a great if Jameson Williams falls to the Eagles here at 15, their war room will go ballistic as well. They'll just I don't think this time anyone's going to not celebrate and not high five Howie like the last time. I think that's the pick. So Jameson Williams is their pick.
Yeah, I see a lot of people saying that if he didn't get hurt, he would be the first. He still could be the first receiver taken off the board. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but undoubtedly the first receiver, top 10 kind of guy. As an Eagles fan, I'd be very excited with that. So the Saints are up next, and that's who they traded with. The Saints, I think they traded for one big reason, to replenish their offense, to get a quarterback and to get a receiver. So I think they're going to go receiver here first, and I think they're going to go Chris Olave out of Ohio State. Michael Thomas ain't it anymore. His Twitter hashtag or his Twitter handle is can't guard Mike, but it should be can't stay on the field. He has issues that he doesn't want to be on the Saints anymore. It's pretty apparent. He's just kind of done with them. So they need a receiver. And Chris Olave, to me, watching him, he kind of seems like a Keenan Allen type a little bit, just a guy who can get open, who's pretty good run after catch, but just a guy you can always count on. You know where he's going to be. He's going to catch the ball. Very smooth and fluid as well. I'd be happy if the Eagles picked him, honestly. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but I think he could easily be a number 1. So the Saints need a quarterback, they need a receiver, but I think they're going to go receiver first and get Chris Olave out of Ohio State, another one of those Ohio State boys at receiver. That means the Chargers are up at 17.
All right. Well, the Chargers need to continue to build around Herbert. I think they have good receivers there already. I think they drafted a guy who's going to be all-pro for a number of years on the offensive line last year. However, I think that the rest of their offensive line still needs a lot of work. So at this point, the Chargers are going to select Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. And I think this is a guy that has people were concerned with because he plays at Northern Iowa. But I think he held his own at the Senior Bowl, showed he can play with the big boys. Had a pretty good combine, and he just has that mentality, I think, that he could play right tackle for them and just maul people.
Yeah.
And I think looking at that division, some of those teams in there got some, beefed up their defensive line, their pass rushers. So I think the Chargers are going to need to respond with just continuing to build protection around Herbert.
Yeah, if you can get Slater at left tackle, Penny at right tackle for the next, at least 4 or 5 years, that's kind of a team that signals like they want to make a run for the Super Bowl. Now, they haven't made the playoffs yet, so that's kind of where, they get Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson. That's all nice. That's awesome. They're really good players, but they really want to, I think, go for it all. I think Penning could step in right away and help them with that. It's just I don't know if they're Super Bowl bound right now. Their moves kind of indicate that, but I would say some work still needs to be done. But yeah, if you can get Slater on left, Penning on right, that's a good start for sure, and a good foundation for Herbert for years to come. That means the Eagles are up at 18 with their second pick in the first round.
And now Howie is saying, can we go quarterback? Can we go quarterback? And they are just putting duct tape over his mouth right now because we are not going quarterback. Really could use a good cornerback, and there are some good cornerbacks, but not this early. They're going to have to wait till second round and find that cornerback in the second round. All us as fans, we want them to get a linebacker so desperately here. But that's not their track record either. They just don't go linebacker that high. They don't value that position. Defensive end is a big need. George Karlaftis is still out there. So they're going to go ahead and get Brandon Graham's successor and draft George Karlaftis as defensive end.
Nice. Now, people have kind of compared him to a Ryan Kerrigan type.
Oh.
If Eagles fans know anything, Ryan Kerrigan was awful last year.
Except for the last game. The last game he showed up.
Travis, do you think what do you think his pro projection can be?
I don't I want to say J.J. Watt. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I know that he's very new to the sport. I think he only started playing football when he was in maybe high school or something. I don't think he actually played defensive end until closer to when he was actually graduating high school. So, in terms of football experience, he's still very raw. So, he is only going to get better, I think. And he's a multiple sport player. So I think that's always good when you can get guys who played multiple sports.
For sure.
But he's definitely has a, like you said, there, a relentless motor. I think that's going to only benefit him moving forward.
Yeah, we'll see what he ends up kind of becoming like. You said J.J. Watt. A lot of people would agree with you. I know his freshman year, kind of like Derek Stingley, his freshman year was just set the world on fire and then kind of slowed down a little bit. David Ojabo, too, is very new to the game. So those kind of defensive ends from the Big Ten that we're seeing here, probably in the late first, maybe early second round, very raw kind of prospects, but definitely have the ability, if you can coach them up the right way and put them in the right scheme, the right placement. It's just, from my eyes, I don't know if Jonathan Gannon can quite do that. We'll see if he can. He hasn't had much to work with last year, but I feel like Karlaftis should be a guy that you can stick anywhere, and he'd be a disruptor of sorts.
And he fits the Eagles' mentality. They always build from the inside out. So that's why, even though the sexier pick would be like a safety maybe, I'm not sure there's a safety high enough here at this point for them. Or if a linebacker, we desperately need linebackers, but you can get some quality linebackers too, just like you can get better cornerbacks later on as well. They'll still be there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
And a good defensive line can make your linebackers look better than what they actually are. So
Absolutely true.
Let's see. The Saints are on the clock now. I said they're going to go quarterback, and they will. It's not going to be Kenny Tiny Hands Pickett. It's going to be Desmond Ritter. They're going to go Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati.
Wow.
I feel like his name has been popping up quite a bit recently. Has an athletic profile. If you look at his combine, his measurables, all that, it's very similar to Marcus Mariota. And even though Peyton's not there anymore, I mean, for Pete's sake, they had Taysom Hill at quarterback. So, I think they're willing to try this experiment. I think athletically, he's one of the better quarterbacks in this draft, along with Malik Willis. But I think Ritter has shown from like a passing standpoint, he's much more ready to go than Willis is. Willis is still very raw in his passing game and his mechanics. Like he's all over the place a little bit. He's big arm for sure, but he's not really molded into a quarterback quite yet. I think Ritter is that. A winning quarterback for sure. I mean, he really doesn't play anybody when you're Cincinnati, but I think he can be a good quarterback in the pros. I mean, I don't think he's going to set the world on fire by any means, but I think that's what they did with getting Olave, Kamara, if he gets out of jail, wherever he's at. They have a really good offensive line. I think that's kind of undersold here. Is the Saints have one of the better offensive lines in the entire NFL. I think if you can get Ritter on the field right away, I think that would be fine. I mean, I think he'd be ready to go. I think that offense, as is right now, is good enough for a rookie quarterback to step in. Jameis Winston, I know they re-signed him, but let's be honest, no one really wants Winston as their starter long term. So I think they want a quarterback for sure. And I'm just not seeing it from Kenny Pickett anymore. And Malik Willis, to me, is just still so very raw that I don't think he's worth taking here. So the Steelers are up next at pick number 20.
So this guy feels like a Steelers pick to me. And maybe it's because the colors are very similar. But I think that they need help on their offensive line. And I think they'll go on the interior with Tyler Linderbaum at center.
Nice. Another Iowa guy. They do pretty well in the NFL, it seems like.
Yep. Yeah, and I think he's a guy that could be there for a number of years as their center. He seems to be kind of all over the board on the different people's rankings.
Yeah.
Some people are sliding him down compared to the other centers, but I mean, Iowa knows how to coach offensive linemen and get them ready for the NFL.
For sure.
And I think we saw that last year with Creed Humphrey for the Chiefs, how good he was, and he was undervalued because of his position. He got picked, later than probably what he should have. And I don't think the Steelers are going to let that happen with. I don't think the Steelers or any team that needs a center is going to let that happen with Linderbaum if he drops. So.
Yeah, I feel like a good center, an okay to good kind of center, is what most people have, and it's not worth drafting high. But if you have a great one to an elite one, he can make that entire offensive line better than what it is. I think as Eagles fans, we've seen that with Kelsey. I think Travis Frederick did that with the Cowboys. Like you said, Creed Humphrey doing wonders last year. Nick Mangold when he was with the Jets. Like, if you have a good center, I mean, he can really make that offensive line just even better, I think, when he's on the field. So, yeah, for Steelers fans, imagine Linderbaum running downfield, and then behind him is Najee Harris, because I think that's kind of what you're imagining there. Kind of pulling out front there, and then Harris right behind him. I think that'd be really exciting for them. Still don't have a quarterback. Who's their quarterback? Trubisky?
Mitchell.
Oh gosh. Oh no. Well, I guess it's a Najee Harris show. That's what it's going to be if you get Linderbaum. Good pick. I like that. Let's see. The Patriots are up at 21.
Okay, well, their defense was pretty good. It's always been pretty good, and I don't know if they lost anyone in free agency. I didn't really keep an eye on that. But all through the offseason, there was talk about that big wide receiver they have. Um, Help me out here. Who's the Patriots wide receiver?
Nikhil Harry?
Yeah. I mean, and they kind of thought that he'd be the guy for him, but he's been a bust.
Yeah.
And so I think you got to give their running backs are fine. They do a great job with the running game, but you got to give their quarterback another target. So Treylon Burks is a big receiver. He fits the mold of Harry, but maybe an upgrade over him. So basically, ditch Harry, bring in Treylon Burks, and see if we can just do like a redo, a part two on this, if you will, on this wide receiver situation for them.
Yeah, that's definitely different than Nikhil Harry. I think Burks is the kind of guy to, pretty much do anything that you want him to on offense. I don't know, since McDaniels is out, I don't know who's stepping in his place. I feel like there are rumors of Belichick wanting Matt Patricia to run some things on offense. So, I don't know what's going on there. But for Mac Jones, I think that's a really good selection because, I mean, you need to get the ball into your playmakers' hands, and right now their best playmaker in terms of receiver is Nelson Aguilar, right? So, could be a lot better, for sure. Tight ends are good. Running backs, you're fine. Offensive line, they always seem to get a decent one. But, yeah, they could use some more athleticism, some more talent on the outside for sure. Kind of forgot he was still on the board. That's a good pick. Let's see. The Packers, who are probably pissed off right now.
Oh, yeah.
Just because the Patriots got Jalen Burks. They're up now at 22. Aaron Rodgers is pooping his pants right now. He's upset.
So the Patriots took Treylon Burks?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fine because I don't think they're going to go receiver at this point right now. But they do have another pick where they can address it in a little bit. But I think at this point, Devin Lloyd's still on the board. And I think he's a really, really good linebacker. But it'll be interesting, I think, on draft day to see if he falls just because of the position he plays. But I think he's a good linebacker. I think the Packers would be happy to take him, pair him up with Devondre Campbell in the middle there. I think this guy, again, he's another guy that I don't think tested extremely well at the combine or his pro day. But, again, he put on tape. He's built like a linebacker that you would build in a lab. I think he played wide receiver at one point and then switched to linebacker, so that tells you just how athletic he is. But I think that's a guy that I don't know how long they signed Devondre Campbell for.
3 years or something.
3 years, yeah. This guy could be there for a while. So
yeah. I think he's definitely the kind of guy that you want to build your defense around, especially in a 3-4, which I think they have. I mean, I think, he can rush the passer. He had 8 sacks last year. We've seen him get many interceptions, his hands on a lot of balls, stuff in the run. He can pretty much do it all. I'm not one to lie and say I've watched a bunch of tape because I haven't, but just watching Devin Lloyd a little bit because I want the Eagles to get a linebacker, definitely he stood out to me. I'd love for the Eagles to get him. I think he reminds me of a Devin White type. Maybe not. If he tested like Trayvon Walker did, then I think we'd be hearing his name probably in the top 15, top 10. But he didn't. So, and he's from Utah. I don't really think there's anyone that I'm like, oh, he came from Utah. Yeah, like that's no one really cares about Utah. Sorry, other players anyway. So yeah, if he tested like Trayvon Walker or Jordan Davis, I think we'd be talking about him much earlier. But I think he is the best linebacker in this draft, athletic standpoint, and just really doing everything that Utah asked of him extremely well. So it's an interesting pick for sure. I think Packers fans would get over it because he's probably going to be pretty good, but definitely a little upset that Burks was gone ahead of him. So the Cardinals are up at 23, and this is a weird spot for the Cardinals. I don't really know what their future holds, to be honest. Kyler Murray is in, then he's out. Seems like they get a receiver every year, and they still need more, apparently. Their defense needs a lot of help, for sure. This is tough. I think they're going to go Kaiir Elam, corner out of Florida. This might be a little bit of a reach, but I think it's a reach worth taking. They have some talented players in the secondary. We know that with Budda Baker, but I think to get another one on the outside would benefit them greatly. Their pass rushes need some work too, for sure, but I think they're kind of banking on J.J. Watt being back. And Kaiir Elam probably would have gone maybe top 15, top 10, like 3 or 4 months back. He was one of the best corners on the board, apparently, and then he just dropped a little bit. But from a physical standpoint, I think he has everything that you want in the corner. He's played a lot of snaps. He's played a lot of football. I think that's kind of what they want, someone to step on the field right away and produce for them because they are in the playoffs. And they're probably going to go back to the playoffs. So they need guys that can help them out right now. I feel like he might not have the elite traits like a Ahmad Gardner or Derek Stingley, but I think he's solid. And I think once you get past 20 in this draft, a lot of guys are kind of similar. This is a reach per se, but you probably could have gotten him a little bit later. But I think just based on need, I think Kaiir fits them pretty well. So that means the Dallas Cowgirls are on the clock at 24.
Okay, so the best thing that the Cowboys could do, there's going to be a lot of yelling, hey, let's get another wide receiver because, obviously without Amari there and then with Gallup coming back from his, I think it was an ACL for Gallup, you got CeeDee Lamb and then you've got Cedric Wilson?
Yeah.
And that's it, right? So, but again, if you look at where they really struggled last year, other than the fact that they're the Cowboys and they're always going to struggle when they get to the playoffs, offensive line is starting to fall apart for them.
Mm-hmm.
So the best offensive linemen are gone, but there's still a few out there. The guy from, he sounds German, doesn't he? Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan. But he's highly ranked on a lot of boards. He's maybe the 7th best offensive lineman overall. Knowing that the Cowboys have a need, knowing that was their success when Dak, in Dak's rookie season, they had that awesome offensive line. I think they go back to solution and they say, okay, let's go ahead and get ourselves some really good, strong pieces. Lyle Collins is gone from there.
Yep.
And I think they lost somebody else too. So offensive lineman, big need for them. We're going to go with Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan for the Cowboys.
Yeah, they lost Connor Williams too. He went to Miami. Raymond, I believe, played tight end when he first started out, right?
Yep, tight end until last year, till 2020, and then he switched to tackle.
Yeah,
and he is from Austria, so that's why his name sounds
okay. And close German, Austrian, but he played tight end. And some of the most athletic linemen that we've seen have been switchovers from tight ends.
Yeah,
I mean that was Lane Johnson, right? quarterback to tight end to tackle.
Yep.
Jason Peters.
That's Jason Peters. Same thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he was like what 6'7", like 230 coming into college, and then gained like 70 pounds over his next few years. So
Yeah, and that ain't all fat. So
nope, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I like that pick for them.
But I was really tempted to pick Bobby Boucher for them because I thought he would be the perfect pick.
Bobby Boucher. Wait, what?
You know who Bobby Boucher is?
Yeah,
Right? That's who the Cowboys need.
yeah.
I helped him on that last play.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, they definitely need offensive line help. But you're right. I think Jerry Jones and company would be like itching for a receiver, but they know. I think the problem with the Cowboys is like they know how to draft people, but they just don't know like when to keep them, when to get rid of them.
Right.
You know, it's just that's been a problem for them. I mean,
Who to pay? They have.
okay, yeah, it's.
They get good players, but it's never really at the position they absolutely need.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree. Means the Buffalo Bills are on the clock at 25.
All right. Well, the Bills, almost in the AFC Championship last year. And I think they are pretty – I mean, they're set at wide receiver. Offensive line might be able to use some help, but played pretty good last year. I think if I were them, I would continue to invest in that defensive line. Obviously, when you're going up against some of the best quarterbacks in the playoffs, you need pass rushers. I think that can affect the game. We saw how much that helped out the Rams down the stretch there. So I'm going to go with another guy from Georgia that's shot up draft boards here recently, who didn't play a lot for them, but has a lot of potential. And I'm going to go with Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle.
Nice. I think they just had the fifth-year option on Ed Oliver. I believe he's been a little bit underwhelming. He's not really – I mean, he was a freak coming out of college, so they thought, oh, anytime there's a D tackle that's a freak, they equated to Aaron Donald or something like that. But he hasn't really been close to that. So for sure, they could use another D tackle, another defensive lineman. They got Rousseau last year. I believe Epinesa the year before. So it seems like they've been getting a lot of guys that are just okay. But yeah, defensive line is definitely a need, especially if you're going to face Patrick Mahomes again. I mean, it's all hands on deck. It's get every kind of pass rusher, every kind of defensive lineman that you can just to make him uncomfortable. So, Simba, I think that's a good pick. So that was the Bills, and then we have the Titans up next. I have the Titans. Titans are in an interesting spot here. They've really doubled down on the whole Ryan Tannehill thing, which I think is stupid. I think he sucks, but here we are, and it's the Derrick Henry show. So they're going to continue with the Derrick Henry show, and they're going to give him some lanes up front. I think they're going to go Zion Johnson here out of Boston College. I think he's probably one of the most pro-ready offensive linemen in this draft. Length, size, wingspan. Probably his best work was in the run game. He could use some help in the pass protection standpoint, but I think from a running standpoint, I think that's what the Titans want. They want someone who can open up holes for Derrick Henry because they could go receiver here for sure, but I don't think that elevates them at all because they have Tannehill at quarterback. So I think they're going to double down and really just invest in the running game, and I think Zion Johnson's going to help them do that. So that was Zion Johnson at 26. That means the Buccaneers are on the clock at 27.
Hey, they have Tom Brady. What else do they need, right?
Forfeit the pick.
Yeah. I guess they needed a little help on the offensive line, but it looked like they needed help at guard position. But now with both of those last two picks, two of the last three picks being offensive linemen, another need they have is like a slot corner, and Andrew Booth is still out there.
Oh yeah.
And I think last year they struggled a little bit with their cornerback play. So we're going to give him Andrew Booth cornerback. So.
Yeah, I kind of forgot he was still on the board there, but Booth, I don't really know much about him in terms of like what kind of player is he? Is he a ball hawk? Is he a zone corner? I think ideally they want him to be pretty much everything. They have Tre'Davious White already there, but if you can get another lockdown corner potentially, I mean who was the pick? Oh, the Buccaneers. I'm sorry. Carlton Davis is there, but other than that, they could use some help there for sure. We know what Winfield can bring at safety. And they drafted defensive end last year with Tryon. They still have Vita Vea there. I believe they still have Democon Sue. They have great linebackers. You're right. Like, they have pretty much everything that you need. I think Andrew Booth would be an added addition to that Buccaneers defense. And now that Todd Bowles is the head coach, right? I think defense is probably where they'll go, and they'll be happy to take defense. So the Packers are up at 28. This is their second pick in the first round.
So took a linebacker with the first pick. And I think still a good receiver on the board. And I like this pick for the Packers and for him, because I think he will flourish with Aaron Rodgers. Go with my boy, Jahan Dotson.
Yeah.
I think he's I think similar to how Tom Brady appreciated Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay, I think Aaron Rodgers will appreciate Jahan Dotson, the versatility that he has, be able to play inside, outside. And he's he's smaller, but I've heard a lot of people say, draft analysts say, that he's probably one of the best catchers of the football in the draft, because he goes after the ball, doesn't wait for it to come to him. So I think Aaron Rodgers will appreciate having that, and I think if you're Jahan Dotson and you get to go play with Aaron Rodgers right away to start out, that's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, that's a good point though, because I think what we've seen with Aaron Rodgers is he can fit the ball pretty much anywhere. So even if Jahan Dotson has a little bit of separation, like,
he throws guys open.
Yeah, so he's going to be able to get open at the last second, or he's going to come back for the ball. He's going to catch it. Like, Devontae Adams is an incredible receiver, but and he's probably going to be on the Raiders too. But some of that is just Rodgers is very, very accurate, and he can throw guys open, and he needs someone who is trustworthy. I think, like you said, he has the best hands in this draft. I think he does too, and probably one of the most trustworthy receivers that there is in this draft. So it's a good pick for them. Means the Chiefs are on the clock at 29 and 30. I have both of these picks. All right. Well, now that Jahan Dotson is gone, that kind of sucks. I think the Chiefs would have liked to take him for sure. But I am going to go with Daxton Hill with the first pick here. Kind of a Tyrann Mathieu replacement. They don't want him anymore. He's out in free agency. He wants a lot of money. No one's going to give him that money. I don't know what he's thinking. But Daxton Hill is very versatile. He played corner. He played safety. I think he could play nickel. And obviously very fast as well. He's not I kind of equated him to a Malcolm Jenkins kind of type of player, but I think he's even faster than him. Very aggressive, pretty sure tackler as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he would go higher than pick 29 or 30 here, just because I think he is that good. This brings much need to their defensive secondary. Juan Thornhill's been kind of below average. Daniel Sorensen, not sure why he's even on an NFL team. So Daxton Hill, I think, is a really good player, really solid player, and I think he's going to help out that defense quite a bit. So with the next pick after Daxton Hill, they are going to go. He is not on the board here on my slides, but we're going to go with Christian Watson out of North Dakota. 6'5", about 200 pounds, pretty massive human being. I think what I saw on his spider chart is he had similar things to Calvin Johnson, similar attributes. And I argued with someone on Twitter. I'm like, how dare you compare him to Calvin Johnson? That's what a lot of North Dakota stands are very much adamant about, is that he's a physical freak. But sometimes it doesn't really mean everything. Just because you're a physical freak, you're going to succeed, you're going to do well in the NFL. But I think the Chiefs are desperate enough for a receiver at this point that they're going to go, probably someone earlier than what they should. We have guys like Christian Watson. There is Sky Moore there. As well, but I think Christian Watson gives them a little bit more of a dimension at receiver. They can't replace Tyreek Hill. It's just not possible. You can't get rid of Tyreek Hill and then expect to get someone to do what he did. You can't. No one's Tyreek Hill. So I think you have to change up the offense a little bit and get different receivers. I think Christian Watson's definitely different than Tyreek Hill. So that's where I'm going with my second pick for the Chiefs at pick 30. Now the Bengals are up at 31.
Well, the Bengals were like one drive away from winning the Super Bowl, right? With an inferior offensive line, you would think that they'd want to build up that offensive line. But again, I'm not sure if the guys that are left on the offensive line are – basically they're picking at the end of the round. So this is a second-round pick, more or less.
Yeah.
Do they do that? Do they wait till their next pick at 60 to find some better offensive lineman, a better value? One of the things that they might be interested in, because that defense was pretty good last year, maybe putting another piece into that defense on that defensive line, just to give more freedom to some of the guys they already have there. Two guys come to mind. Ajabu from Michigan. He's not there yet. And if he ever heals up, and the Bengals are probably defensively in a position to allow him to recover from that injury. And then they got a stud defensive lineman with a really high potential. The other guy who could probably step on and contribute right away is Ebiketie from Penn State. Ooh. But again, that's kind of high for him. He'll probably go second round, but it's at the end of the second round. He played at Temple, but then he got all this exposure at Penn State. And realistically, look, what else did Penn State have along that defensive line? When Mustafar got hurt, there wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't like Ajabu who was playing opposite of Hutchinson, right? So it was Ebiketie, and everyone knew it was Ebiketie at a stop. So. But I'm going to say that he's a Penn State player, and the league should really draft Penn State players because even though Penn State can't win a whole lot, they put out some really good professionals.
We'll go 6-6, but darn, we get some really good NFL players.
Well, I saw a graphic today that they expect six Penn State guys to go in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Something crazy like that. 11 Georgia guys will go, but they figured that 6 Penn State guys will go. 6 Penn State guys for a team that went mediocre.
Yeah.
So they're good players. But I'm going to say that the Bengals are going to take a flyer on Ajabu here and say get healthy, and then we got another stud defensive lineman. Put a lot of pressure on those other teams. So
Yeah,
we'll
Trey
go with that.
Hendrickson's there. I like that. Now, Ogunjobi, I believe, went to the Bears, right? I think he got signed by the Bears. So, like, they need some reinforcements on that defensive line. But I like that. It's a good pick, a good spot for him to heal up. That means with the last pick in the first round, the Detroit Lions. Now they got Hutchinson with their first pick. What are they going to do with their next one?
Come on, they got to go quarterback. They got to go.
Well, they could go quarterback here. Still 2 quarterbacks left on the board who have potential first-round grades on them. However, they also have the 34th pick after this one, so you're only gonna wait another pick after this one if you want to go there. I'm looking at my board here, and Nakobe Dean's still on the board.
Yeah.
And I think he's a really, really good player. He's probably one of the best players on that Georgia defense, or at least one that was the most talked about anyways. Doesn't get as much hype as some of these other guys are getting. And I just think because of the position he plays, again, I think he'll probably drop in the draft. But we saw, not that he's the same type of player as Michael Parsons, but, Michael Parsons dropped in that draft, because of, obviously he didn't play the year before, but also his position is not one that's teams value very highly, but obviously he had a huge impact on the Cowboys. It probably wouldn't have been anywhere close to where they were without him. I don't think Dean's going to have that same impact, but he's definitely going to upgrade that Detroit Lions linebacker unit and that defense and be a piece there with Hutchinson that can be around for a while. So I'm going with Nakobe Dean.
I like that. I've seen a lot of mocks like that. I think Nakobe Dean's better than the 32nd player overall, but I don't think he'll get past the first round. And if he does, someone's going to trade up and probably get him. So, really good spot for Nakobe Dean to go. So that wraps up our first round of the NFL mock draft. Again, guys, the draft is Thursday. Super excited for it. I wanted to ask you guys quick, what player is your favorite player in this draft? And then number 2, where are you hoping the Eagles go in this draft? Travis, go.
Go ahead, Travis.
All right, so I got to think about who my favorite player in the draft is. But for the Eagles, I'll start there. So honestly, I hope that if there's the potential for them to trade up and grab maybe a guy like Kyle Hamilton or Derek Stingley or Garrett Wilson, if one of those guys drops out of the top 10 or like even at 10, like I hope they try and trade up and get one of those guys because I mean, you have the draft capital to do it. You need players, so that's my hope is that they do that if one of those guys are there. If not, you take the best player available. I think Jordan Davis may be available for them where they're sitting at potentially, and I think he would be a good pick. And then honestly, with the 18th pick, kind of hoping they trade down and just get more picks, maybe either like for next year's draft or in this draft because. Like you said before, like I think once you get out of maybe the top 15 picks or so, depending on who's available, like all those guys are probably the same type of quality players. So you can get a good player later on, and you don't have to waste that high of a pick to do it. So that's kind of what I hope they do. I don't think they're gonna, I'd be surprised if they stayed put with both those picks and made picks there, but. Favorite player in the draft. Well, Dad, you talk about what you want the Eagles to do now.
Okay, I'll tell you what I really, I hate that they have to do this. I really hate that they have to do this. Go wide receiver 3 years in a row. But when you make such horrible picks like they did, whether it's JJ, right? Who they're making a tight end, or it's Rager, who they're looking to dump. I mean, but nobody wants him. Nobody's even going to take him to be their water boy. I mean, Bobby Boucher would beat him out easily. They're almost forced, though. Again, like for me, they're almost forced to get some quality receiver just to see, do they have anything in Jalen Hurts or not? Because next year's a big year for them. If they go through this year and Hurts doesn't show any improvement with better targets, then they know we got to go quarterback next year. So I'm hoping the best available, the best fit, and the best available for them. I don't want them taking a guy like Drake London because everything you said is absolutely correct. He's an SC player. I mean, SC has turned out some decent players. Juju's a decent player.
Yeah.
If you go all the way back to Keyshawn was a good player, but it's a crapshoot with Pac-10 players. You just never know, especially receivers. So Alabama receivers, Ohio State receivers. If there was an LSU receiver, I'm not sure if there is an LSU receiver this year. I don't really think there is. But somebody like that, who plays in that kind of conference, they could get somebody like that. That would be really good. Could this be the year where they break all trends and get themselves a linebacker like Nakobe Dean, and maybe not get him at 15, maybe not even get him at 18, maybe be able to move back a couple spots, pick up a couple extra drafts or spots or something, and then say, okay, we're going to go ahead and get this guy because we've never valued linebacker. Let's see what happens if we value a linebacker. Actually, that's not really true. They do value linebackers. They just don't value drafting linebackers. Look at the Super Bowl year. They had decent linebackers that year, but they were other people's linebackers for the most part, So maybe they go ahead and go linebacker. I'd really like to see them either go receiver or linebacker. I know that edge is a big need, a defensive end, but crying out loud, Trent Cole was what, a 4th-round draft pick? They're pretty good at finding decent defensive linemen later on in the draft too. So
yeah, Sweat was a 4th-rounder. I mean,
yeah, yep.
They and this draft especially, there are a lot of edges that you can find like probably 3rd, 4th round that can step on the field right away and probably be better than Derek Barnett, if I'm being completely honest. So
and they signed Barnett for 1 year, right? Because they know that they can't get rid of, just in case, they can't get rid of all their edge rushers. But if they can get a guy who's an upgrade over Barnett, split some time this year, jettison Barnett next year, and now you're ready to go. So,
favorite player for either of you?
Favorite player in the draft. I've been watching a lot of Kayvon Thibodeau's interviews, and he just seems so incredibly mature. I don't know why he's getting the bad rap he is. When they speak to him, he looks like he's a veteran already. He speaks like he's a veteran. I think there's a leadership quality about him that nobody's talking about. I think right now a lot of people are blowing smoke, and I think the analysts are picking up on the smoke to some extent.
Yeah.
I think he's going to go pretty high. I really do. On draft night, I think he's going to go really high. Everyone's been talking about he's fallen, because that's what they want everyone to do. Go away from him. But I think he could be the kind of guy too. He could be like a Micah Parsons. I mean, he's that impactful, or a Reggie White, maybe even. He's that impactful of a defensive end, that athletic. So I would say right now he's probably my favorite player.
Travis.
Well, I'm gonna go a little bit off the board with my favorite player here. So obviously, I like every Penn State player that's draft eligible. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna be a homer. But a guy I really like, and I'm kind of hoping the Eagles, if they don't take a receiver early on and they wait a little bit, is a guy like David Bell from Purdue.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've watched a lot of Big Ten games, watched a lot of Purdue games. Like, he's been their offense for the past, 3 years that he's been there. And, guy just puts up ridiculous numbers every year. I get he doesn't have all the elite athleticism like some of these other receivers do. But, he gets open. He can catch the football. He kind of reminds me a little bit he could be maybe a Terry McLaurin type guy, or he doesn't get valued because of whatever it is, and he drops in the draft and could end up put up big numbers. So so that's a guy I kind of hope the Eagles, if they don't take a receiver early on, maybe target third round, something like that if he's available, because I think pairing him up with Smith would be
pretty good too. Yeah, I like him too. He's played against some pretty good competition, and from my recollection, did pretty well against those schools. Just because you're not running a 4-4 doesn't mean you can't beat some of the best corners in the country. It's about getting open, about catching the ball, about doing, rack yards after the catch, things like that. I don't think Devontae Adams is the fastest guy in the league by any stretch of imagination. I don't think he's the quickest guy in the league, but he gets open, and he's a technician, and he just he knows how to catch the ball. He knows what to do after he catches the ball. So, I like David Bell a lot. My favorite player is probably Daxton Hill. I think I mentioned that before. I don't know. I just see it he could be a really good all-around defender for any kind of defense. And I love for the Eagles to, like you said, maybe trade up and get one of those guys like a Thibodeau or a Wilson or a Jameson Williams, and then trade back and maybe get Daxton Hill or Nakobe Dean. I'd like that too. That's pretty much all my questions. So if you guys wanted to, Jocks of All Trade Nation, hopefully one of our hosts, or maybe even you guys, could come back for a little bit during the draft and talk through it a little bit. That's the goal, but we'll see what happens. So, Travis, Dad, thank you for hopping on and joining in this mock draft.
Absolutely.
No problem.
We're going to need to come up with a new catchphrase for this draft. We can't use "We want the Pete's" anymore.
I don't even know what it would be.
I don't know. We'll figure something out. We want the Pete's, but we're not going to do that.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining us on this one, and we'll see you on the next episode.
We'll
Bye.
see you at draft night. See you on draft night.
Draft night. Yep.
Later.
Let's see how accurate we are.
Yeah.